Revealed. 7 divine reasons your family couldn't love you as the miraculous chosen one in the quaint village of Little Haven. Nestled between whispering woods and babbling brooks, a young woman named Grace found herself at the heart of a heavenly mystery. Each day, the sun blessed her with golden beams, illuminating her room just as the whispers of divine truth illuminated her soul. Her faith burned fiercely, igniting the cobblestone streets with hope, but there was a shadow in her heart. The very family who loved her most struggled to see the extraordinary calling she believed stirred within her, a calling that set her apart. As she knelt beneath the ancient oak, the very roots of which seemed to pulse with sacred energy, she felt a stirring. Here, in the almost palpable silence, she sensed 7 divine lessons begin to emerge like flowers from the rich soil of her spirit. From the unfathomable depth of her prayers emerged miracles that transformed mundane moments into scenes of supernatural wonder. Once, she prayed fervently for her sickly neighbor, and in moments, the weary man arose, aglow with vitality, an event that sent ripples of astonishment through their village. Yet, her family met her whispered ambitions with gentle smiles, their faces painted with confusion, creating a chasm between her dreams and their understanding. When tragedy struck and her younger brother, James, fell gravely ill, the village held its collective breath. St. Mary's Church, where flickering candlelight danced like starlight, filled with fervent prayers. Grace's heart raced in the whirlwind of fear, yet a fire of faith burned bright. People gathered, passionately pleading for a miracle, but skeptics ambled by, their dismissive laughter ringing sharply. Why couldn't they see the divine purpose unfolding? Join me in prayer, Grace implored her family at dinner, her voice tinged with urgency, eyes reflecting the plea of her heart. But what met her was a wall of silence, a moment of shared disconnect that tasted bitter like ashes. The longing for unity mixed with a desperate hope that miracles could shift their perspectives. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As night fell, Grace found comfort beneath the ancient oak, its gnarled branches sheltering her from the swirling night. Then came the whispers, vociferous and harmonious. The 7 lessons rushed around her in radiant colors. Could disbelief cloud the lens of love? Was her calling truly a lonely burden? In those sacred moments, she wrestled, drawing forth revelations that surged through her very being. A flickering light guided her, a promise of miracles born of unity. Suddenly, it struck her that even the thickest walls of skepticism could give way when bound by love. In that heartbeat, she resolved to keep praying, keep hoping, both for James's recovery and for those she so dearly loved to understand. As they gathered in prayer, Grace clutched the warmth of her family's hands, daring to dream of the light that could break through the darkness. Would faith weave its magic, or would despair win the day? The quiet tension escalated, and as Grace braced for what lay ahead, she felt a divine stir, as if heaven itself watched in anticipation. Could this be the moment when everything would change, both for her brother and for the weary hearts of her family? As the miracles began to form, she knew the answer lay just beyond the horizon, an unanswered question lingering in the air, filled with wonder and divine mystery. Grace felt a shift in the air, a gentle rustling that spoke of promise. As darkness surrounded them, the warm glow of candlelight flickered within the church, casting soft shadows on the weary faces of those who gathered to pray. Each whispered prayer seemed to ascend like smoke, curling toward the heavens. In that sacred space, hope swelled and intertwined with the heartbeat of the congregation. Facing the altar, she closed her eyes and poured her heart into the divine. Lord, she whispered, I believe in your miracles. Show my family the light within these shadows. Her voice trembled, raw and earnest, an offering placed on the altar of faith. She could hear the rustling of her family behind her, caught in the web of their own fears. Her father's heavy sigh broke the stillness, a mixture of resignation and disbelief. She wanted to turn, to reassure them, to invite them into the certainty that faith had become for her. But at that moment, she sensed a movement between the realms, a soft light emerging from within their clustered prayers. Felt electric, both loving and powerful. Each flicker ignited her spirit. Was it possible that they could feel it too? Could they be drawn into the brightness that danced at the edges of their understanding? Please, God, she prayed again, let my family see the truth of your plans. A moment of hushed stillness followed. Grace breathed deeply, welcoming the profound silence. The soft murmurs surrounding her shifted into joyous unity as she felt their collective intent sway like petals in a gentle breeze. In that instant, as if borne by her faith, a gasp rippled through the crowd. Grace opened her eyes, startled. Her brother, James, lay frail in the front pew, but his face glowed a soft luminescent strength. The shadows of illness seemed to ebb, replaced by shimmering vitality. She blinked. Could it be true? James, she gasped, rushing forward, pushing through the gap between the astonished faces as she knelt beside him. Tears swelled, blurring her vision. His eyes shone with clarity, mirroring the light that had filled the room just moments before. Grace, he breathed, voice strong yet soft. I heard you. I felt the love and I prayed. In that moment of sheer revelation, Grace realized these miracles were weaving a bond, something more profound than she once knew. Hope illuminated their hearts, breaking through walls of doubt and creating a bridge to understanding. Perhaps love was the key that could unlock not only her family's hearts but also the world beyond their village. One by one, they gathered around James, a circle of hands and hearts, ready to embrace what was unfolding. Grace felt the warmth of their presence and the flickering light of renewed hope dancing in the air. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation and fervor. Could they finally start to see? Yet questions loomed large in her heart. Would this moment be a turning point for her family, or just a gentle nudge towards faith? What new challenges awaited as they navigated this newfound light together? As the warmth enveloped them, the uncertainty of the journey ahead beckoned her. The answer lay just beyond their first steps into this divine revelation. Grace's heart raced as she knelt beside James, his healing light radiating hope. Around them, faces shifted from disbelief to wonder, eyes widening in awe of the miraculous change. Her father, once clouded by doubt, stepped closer, reaching tentatively toward his son. A glimmer of understanding sparked in his weary gaze. Is it real? He murmured, as if the very act of asking could shatter the splendid moment. James smiled, his presence infusing the air with warmth. It is, Dad. God is here and he has heard us. His voice was steady, carrying a strength that felt like a balm for their collective wounds. The congregation, still wrapped in reverent silence, began to stir. Soft whispers rippled through the crowd, each person sharing their own mixture of skepticism and reluctant acceptance. Grace turned her face toward the heavenly light that seemed to pound within them all, nudging and urging the hearts that had long been shuttered in shadows. Can you feel it? She urged, beckoning with her hands. It's like a fire, lighting the way ahead. We can't turn back now. This is the beginning. Slowly, one by one, her family stepped forward, driven by a force they'd never experienced before. They reached out, their fingers brushing against James's glowing cheek, as though touching this miracle could infuse them with the same radiant strength. It was as if, through this act of faith, they were all illuminated broken pieces knitted together, a mosaic of hope. But as Grace celebrated this transformation, a deeper sense of urgency knotted in her stomach. Voices of doubt flickered beneath the surface, like a dark shadow lingering just out of sight. What if this wasn't the end? What if the healing that left James glowing was merely the prologue to something greater, something they weren't prepared for? Faith is a journey. A voice piped up from the back of the church. It was Mrs. Thompson, the longtime parishioner whose wisdom often guided the community. Miracles don't erase the struggles. They invite us to deeper truths. Grace felt the truth of her words resonate. She nodded, remembering those moments of despair that had driven her to her knees in prayer before. "We must hold on to this light, but we can't forget the lessons of our shadows," she replied, her voice stronger now as the congregation shared their stories. Threads of hope woven through their lives. Grace sensed the true miracle emerging. It was more than healing, this was unity. They were bonding in ways hidden beneath the weariness of daily struggles. Hands clasped, prayers woven into a beautiful tapestry of faith and resilience. But in her heart, she sensed a stirring, echoing the once familiar feeling of uncertainty. What soon awaited them? The warmth was there, but shadows loomed, waiting to test this newfound connection. What else does God want us to see? She wondered silently, did I end the embrace of that holy space, filled with too many questions and too few answers? Grace felt the call to guide her family further. They had taken the first step together, now they needed courage for the steps to come. As the evening progressed and the candles burned low, a new revelation flickered just at the edge of her understanding. Maybe God was leading them toward a challenge that would deepen their faith even further. But what would test their resolve? What dark corners would they need to confront in the days ahead? The light had come, now came the path to follow it. Grace felt a hush settle over the congregation, a sacred lull that encouraged silence and deep introspection. The miracles witnessed earlier sparked a fire of hope, yet an unmistakable heaviness still lingered in the air. As if sensing the charge of unasked questions, Mrs. Thompson spoke once more, her voice soft yet unwavering. "Sometimes the greatest miracles are the ones that reveal our hearts, not just our bodies," she said. The weight of her statement hung in the air, challenging every listener to ponder their own truth. Grace's mind raced, processing the layers of meaning in Mrs. Thompson's words. What did it mean to have a heart unveiled? With James's healing came a call to look deeper, right into the very essence of their beings. Each of them housed unhealed wounds, unresolved conflicts that still echoed in the silence. "Let us honor this moment," Grace decided, her voice lifting the veil of discomfort. "Let us share our burdens. Let the light of James's healing guide us through the shadows." She looked around the room, searching for support in familiar faces. Nods rippled through the crowd, igniting a palpable eagerness. One by one, members of the congregation began to speak. Stories of heartache poured forth, broken relationships, lost jobs, struggles with faith. There was a rawness in their confessions, a radiant vulnerability that drew them closer together. As James sat bathed in light, Grace observed her father, his eyes shimmering with a newfound clarity. "I never realized how much weight I've carried alone," he confessed slowly, voice trembling. "The fear of failing as a father, of not being enough, it has kept me in chains." The congregation nodded in understanding, feeling the chain links clatter against their spirits. With each shared sorrow, the room felt lighter, like a heavy fog lifting. "God sees us. He loves us through our struggles," Grace reminded them gently. "What if this is the moment for healing, not just for James, but for all of us?" A wave of agreement rippled through the group. Some wiped tears away, others clutched hands tighter. Hope intermingled with grief, creating a potent, sacred atmosphere. It was not just about physical healing anymore. It became a journey towards emotional and spiritual wholeness. As the candles flickered in the dim light, Grace closed her eyes, surrendering to the stillness that wrapped around her like a warm embrace. "Lord, help us now," she whispered, feeling the prayer bleed from her soul. "Show us the way. Give us the courage to face our shadows." Instinctively, she felt a hand on her shoulder, James' hand, still radiating warmth. He offered her a reassuring smile that seemed to ignite the flickering light within each soul present. In that moment, it became apparent to Grace that healing was merely a doorway to something greater, an opportunity to seek unity, forgiveness, and deeper connection. Yet as hope blossomed, so did questions. How much deeper could they go? What inner turmoils lay waiting to be healed? Grace knew there were still hidden burdens across the horizon, ready to surface. That evening marked a significant step for them, yet the journey felt far from complete. Light illuminated their path forward, but what awaited them just beyond reach? What would the next chapter of their lives ask of them, in exchange for the miracle they had witnessed? A shiver of anticipation danced in Grace's heart, urging her to remain open and ready for the unfolding plan of love awaiting just around the corner. As Grace stood in the flickering candlelight, the anticipation of what lay ahead filled her spirit. The room buzzed with a sacred energy, soaring toward the heavens as hope mingled freely with vulnerability. It was in this transcendental space that another wave of power swept through the congregation, a kind of divine magnetic force pulling hearts together. "Let us take a moment," she suggested, lifting her hands. "Let us become still once more and invite the presence of God to fill this place, filling the cracks in our hearts, exposing and healing what needs to be seen." Soft murmurs of agreement echoed through the crowd as they bowed their heads. The air thickened with expectancy while hearts opened, each person shedding layers of despair like autumn leaves falling to the ground. Grace breathed deeply, feeling her spirit expand. "Lord, come and heal us," she prayed silently. As the heaviness softening around them felt lighter, in this intimate moment, an unseen strength awakened within Grace. She recalled her childhood when faith danced vividly in her heart, before life's storm clouds masked the brilliance of hope. As the warmth wrapped around her, a profound realization broke through. Love has the power to permit us to feel vulnerable and strong at the same time. Mrs. Thompson, watching Grace, sensed a wellspring of solace bubbling below the surface. "This is it, folks," she spoke gently, drawing the congregation back into the present. "Hearts unveiled mean life unveiled, burdens shared, love flowing freely. But we must embrace what lies within us and the courage to face what we've hidden." With that, she encouraged the congregation to take a step of faith. "Go ahead, close your eyes, and let the Holy Spirit bring forth the truth you've kept locked inside. Let Him show you how to walk free." Voices trembled as tears flowed like gentle rain, each confession a fragile petal. There were admissions of loneliness, shame, resentment, broken shards of humanity being offered to the altar of grace. Grace knelt, her own heart acutely aware of the healing transpiring around her. And there it was, a quiet whisper of wisdom coursing through her. She heard it clearer than ever. Out of our suffering comes the revelation of God's purpose. What if every wound could shine a light on the greater truths of love and forgiveness? What if the pain we clung to was merely the veil hiding the sacred connection waiting to be birthed? As this thought settled into her spirit, a fresh kind of resolve filled the air. We are walking testimonies, made not for perfection, but for love, she declared aloud. What if every moment, joyful or painful, served as a reminder that God is with us, and that we are not alone? Each burden we share strengthens our bond, carries us forward into His love. A collective gasp reverberated through the room, awakening the hearts of those present. The flickers of light danced brighter, illuminating the path ahead. James rose with purpose, holding his newly healed hands high. It's the transparency in our journeys that creates our testimonies. Today, let us pour out these hidden truths. Let us not wait and let our unspoken wounds define us any longer. The urgency pulsed within Grace, coursing through the collective heartbeat of the congregation. Let us embrace our stories, and let the healing lead us to deeper connections and expansive love. As confessions continued and the flickering lights blended into a holy chorus, Grace felt a stirring in the depths of her heart, an invitation to go deeper, where the mysteries of love awaited. With a collective breath, they embraced the unfolding journey, hearts ripe with promise. But just as clarity dawned, a stirring uncertainty beckoned. What would this new chapter reveal? What deeper truths lay yet to emerge, interwoven with their collective journey of healing and hope? In that sacred moment, as songs of praise began to bubble forth, Grace could only wonder what divine surprises awaited them. Ready to change everything once more? The melodies rose higher, weaving into a tapestry of prayer and song. Grace felt the pulse of the congregation vibrant, alive, each heartbeat a reminder of the love that bound them together. It was as if their spirits were entwined, creating an unbreakable bond in that sacred space. Let us not shy away from what God reveals, she urged them, her voice steady and warm. He is urging us to look deep within, to seek the roots of our pain and the glimmers of joy interwoven in our journeys. The room responded, a gentle sway of heads nodding in agreement, souls stirred by her passion. Mrs. Thompson stood, her gentle presence commanding respect and affection. Remember, every one of us carries burdens. But God doesn't ask for your perfection. He longs for your presence. Bring your whole selves to Him. With those words, the atmosphere thickened with a loving urgency. Grace glanced around the room, catching glimpses of her friends' faces marked by sincerity, yearning for healing. Each shining face was a reflection of the Creator's light. The warmth that enveloped them lifted their spirits, and Grace couldn't resist the swell of joy pooling in her heart. Suddenly, a voice from the back called out, "I felt so alone for so long." It was Sarah, her eyes brimming with tears. "It's like I've been hidden in the shadows. I don't want to be in this darkness anymore." Murmurs of encouragement rippled through the crowd. "We hear you, Sarah," Grace affirmed, her voice a soothing balm. "This is a sacred moment. You are safe to share and be embraced. Know that you are loved beyond measure." There was an electric shift in the air. Hope flickered to life in even the most closed-off hearts. James took a step forward, arms wide open. "Let us create a space for one another. A tapestry woven from our truths, insecurities, and our faith. Here, we won't hide our bruises but will honor them as symbols of survival." Grace's spirit soared. "Yes, let us rise together. It's how our stories connect us to the heart of God. Our voices unite in testimony. Let us not fear the vulnerabilities that once defined us but see them as mighty threads in the fabric of His love." As the community rallied around Sarah, the floodgates opened. One by one, they began to share struggles, heartbreaks, and hidden fears. Their honesty was raw and beautiful, each confession illuminating shadows and casting light on places once concealed. In that moment, Grace understood their vulnerability was not a weakness but a kind of strength, a sacred offering to one another and to God. "Out of our suffering comes the potential for transformation," she reflected. "And as we lay our burdens down, we create room for His healing." The atmosphere shifted once again, infused with a palpable energy of acceptance and love. The flickering candlelight danced ominously, as if the very walls resonated with divine acknowledgement. Grace knew God was among them, stitching their stories into a magnificent quilt of grace. Suddenly, a sense of urgency gripped her heart. Had they fully grasped the depth of what was being revealed? "There's more waiting for us," she said softly, her voice commanding attention. "What if the greatest healing lies just beyond this moment? What if God is inviting us to step further into our truths to transform our pain into profound purpose?" The congregation held their breath, anticipation thick in the atmosphere. An electric-charged silence enveloped the room, and they could feel that something extraordinary was about to unfold. In the stillness, a gentle breeze swept through, caressing their faces as if the heavens themselves were whispering secrets. What divine plan awaited them? As the flame of hope ignited their courage, Grace couldn't help but wonder what revelations were yet to be unveiled. Would they be ready for what was to come? The silence lingered, a sacred pause that seemed to stretch into eternity. Each heart in the room drummed with the weight of possibility. Grace sensed the gathering momentum, a divine energy charging the air with promise. Suddenly, Sarah stood tall, her tears glimmering like jewels. "I've been hiding my fears," she confessed, her voice quaking but resolute. "But I've realized that in this light, I am not alone. This community, our family in faith, gives me strength to face my shadows." Encouraged by her boldness, others began to speak, voices intertwining like a celestial orchestra. James once again led the way. "Let us not forget the power of our stories. Every trial we've faced is a testament to His grace. They're chapters in a book that aren't just ours but belong to our Creator." Grace felt the weight of their shared truths. Each revelation was a spark, igniting hope and weaving them closer together. She glanced at Mrs. Thompson, who nodded peacefully. The older woman's eyes glimmered with understanding. "We must embrace our pain," Mrs. Thompson added, her voice soothing like a gentle stream. "In our vulnerability, God offers us strength. It's in this space of honesty that we discover His love is vast enough to cover all our wounds. As each person opened their hearts, Grace noticed how the weight of burdens began to lift. The heaviness was being replaced by an inexplicable lightness, as if the air itself was infused with divine grace. Murmurs of agreement flowed through the congregation. "What if we took our pains and made them testimonies?" suggested one of the younger members, Emily. "Like a tapestry, don't some threads need the darker colors to reveal the beauty of the whole piece?" Nods of recognition spread throughout the room. Grace smiled at Emily's insight. It captured the essence of where they were heading. Together, they could transform their struggles into a mosaic of strength. The thought sent a thrill of joy racing through her. Suddenly, the flickering candle flames danced wildly, and the air shimmered with an unseen presence. Grace's heart raced as she sensed it a divine invitation. The Spirit was present, urging them further into the depths of their hearts. "There is still more," Grace exclaimed, urgency spilling from her lips. "What if our stories connect us not just in this room but to the world outside? What if God calls us to bring this message of healing into our families, into our neighborhoods?" Eager whispers rippled through the congregation, eyes lighting up with each possibility. "Yes," shouted James, clenching his fists in determination. "We can be vessels of His love and hope." Grace's gaze swept across the faces illuminated by candlelight, each one a unique representation of the Creator's handiwork. In that moment, she felt the overwhelming presence of God enveloping them, a reminder that they were never alone on their journeys. As the energy built, Grace asked gently, "Are we ready to take what we've learned and share it? Will we step boldly into our families and speak truth, even if it feels daunting?" There was a collective breath, a shared electricity of faith and anticipation. Some nodded earnestly, while others shifted, hearts pounding in rhythm with the call to action. Grace sensed the time was approaching when they would have to take these revelations and put them into practice. It was one thing to speak of transformation, but another to embrace it. In her heart, Grace felt a sweet tug of excitement. The stories they had woven together were not merely moments of vulnerability. They were each an invitation to God's greater narrative, one that transcended their personal experiences. "Let us not keep this healing to ourselves," she urged. "We are the miracles unfolding in each other's lives. What if our openness ignited change in our families? What if we could show them the beauty of grace?" The congregation stood on the brink, hearts ablaze, ready to respond. And in that pregnant silence, a holy expectation hung in the air. What awaited them on the other side of this moment? With eager hearts and expectant minds, they braced for the next step. The call to transformation was at their doorstep, and Grace smiled, knowing that something remarkable was about to unfold. Would they be prepared to answer? The air was thick with anticipation, a palpable energy that pulsed around them. Grace looked deeply into each face, searching for signs of readiness, courage, and the burning fire of hope. They were poised on the brink of something profound, and she could feel it, a divine whisper calling them to press on. "Let us take a moment," Grace suggested, gently closing her eyes to invite the presence of the Holy Spirit even more profoundly. "We need to be courageous in our next steps. Let us ask God how we can be His hands and feet in this world." As they bowed their heads, an almost sacred stillness wrapped around them, and the flickering candlelight cast soft shadows, mirroring the transformative openness of their hearts. People began to pray aloud, words rising like incense. Prayers of healing, for strength, for their families, and for the courage to step outside their walls and share the love they had found among each other. Tears flowed freely now. Each tear was like a seed planted in the rich soil of community. With every prayer, the room grew warmer, filled with an undeniable presence. Grace could feel it, the unmistakable touch of God weaving their stories together. After a few moments, Sarah broke the silence, her voice trembling yet steady. "Can we remember those who aren't here?" she implored. "Those who are lost, those who don't yet know His love. We can invite them into this space of grace." The room filled with murmured agreements. Grace felt a warm breeze wash over her, as if the spirit himself was nodding in approval. Absolutely, Sarah. Our families, our neighbors, they need this light. What if we invited them here? What if our openness brought them home? James lifted his eyes. A spark ignited within him. Let us host an open evening, he declared. A night of sharing our stories. A night of light and love. We can show them that healing is possible through the grace of God. We can show them together. A ripple of excitement danced among them, like a flame catching on dry wood. Emily piped up, and we can share food. Everyone loves a meal together. It's an invitation, a way to break bread and hearts. Joy erupted in laughter and chatter as ideas flowed, each suggestion lifting their spirits further. Grace smiled, feeling the undercurrent of unity. They were not just planning an event. They were planting seeds of hope into the waiting hearts of their families. Yet beneath their enthusiasm, a quiet fear lingered. What if they failed? What if the world outside their gathering was indifferent or hostile? But then Mrs. Thompson's voice cut through the doubt, calming and sure. Remember, dear ones, we serve a God who multiplied loaves and fish. Our offering may seem small, but in his hands, it can feed thousands. Her words settled over the group like a warm blanket, reminding them of the promise of abundance. Grace nodded, feeling a swell of faith rise within her. That's right. We're not alone in this. The struggle is real, but so is our God. As they transitioned into worship, voices lifted in unison, harmonizing beautifully. It was impossible not to feel the divine wrapping around each individual, stirring them to believe that they were capable of incredible things through him. The atmosphere rather shimmered with promise, holding the weight of unrealized possibilities. And yet, beneath the surface, the question hung heavily in the air. What challenges awaited them beyond their walls? What trials would test their resolve? As they finished singing, Grace looked around, breathing in the beauty of unity, yet aware of the things left unsaid. They could only move forward, trusting in the unfolding plan of the Creator. But deep within her heart, a sense of urgency sparked. Would they find the strength to conquer their doubts? With daring hearts and an abiding faith, they stood at the threshold of change, waiting for the first step. On either side lay uncertainty and hope. What awaited them on the road to their first gathering? Would their shared stories truly have the power to heal? The days leading to their first open evening flew by, each one wrapped in anticipation and a measure of anxiety. Grace found herself awake late into the night, her mind swirling with thoughts. Would they have enough food? Would anyone even come? Every what-if seemed to taunt her, but then she would find herself falling back on prayer, inviting peace to wash over her. The afternoon of the event, the group gathered to finalize the details. A bright sun beamed through the windows, bathing the room in golden light, almost like God was cupping their meeting in his hands. The laughter of children echoed from the kitchen as they prepared dishes together, each plate becoming a testament of love and community. Do you smell that? Emily laughed, wiping flour from her hands. It's like heaven is cooking with us. Laughter bubbled and swayed around them, dispelling the last remnants of doubt. But deep down, a thread of apprehension tugged at Grace. What was it about this gathering that felt so deeply significant? Once again, they paused. They gathered in a circle, hands clasped together in unity. Grace's heart fluttered as she looked into her friend's eyes. Let us pray, she urged. They poured out their worries, their hopes, and their longing to serve. Each prayer echoed softly like the rustling of leaves, connecting their spirits. Suddenly, James opened his eyes wide, an idea sparking within him. What if, before we share our meals, we share our stories? His words ignited an undeniable energy. Let us remind each other of the beautiful pasts we come from, how God's hand has shaped our journeys. We can begin from our struggles, showing how he leads us to his love. Sarah's face lit up. Yes, like a tapestry of God's grace, we can weave our stories into something powerful. The group nodded, excitement swirling once more in the air like a vibrant dance. They knew their stories mattered, and now it was time to share that relevance with others. As darkness enveloped the sky, the first guests began to arrive. Grace's heart raced, half in fear, half in hope. Each new face was like a fresh canvas eager for the brush of divine light. She watched as the individuals exchanged tentative smiles, hesitations melting away under the warmth of fellowship. The gathered throng formed a circle, the atmosphere charged. Grace stood up, her voice holding the weight of both vulnerability and courage. Tonight, we invite you to hear our stories, our experiences of loss, redemption, and love, and how God has been our constant through it all. One by one, they began to share. As voices breathed life into tales of heartache transformed into healing, Grace felt the Spirit wrap tightly around them, pulling them closer. They spoke of shattered dreams rebuilt by faith and loneliness that blossomed into community. Every story shimmered with truth, an unmistakable reminder that no one stood alone in their journey. And those who had come unsure began to lean in, eyes glimmering with understanding. Lessons from struggles illuminated paths forward. In that sacred space, hearts began to connect. Walls of isolation began to fall. But even then, when the warmth of connection was palpable, Grace sensed the presence of doubt lingering like shadows on the edges of their circle. New friends whose eyes spoke of need and longing darted her way. What would they take from this experience? Would they feel this empowerment, this grace of community? As the evening deepened, laughter and joy erupted alongside profound musings. Grace felt a tugging in her spirit, a yearning that something magnificent was unfolding. The stories mattered, but were they enough? All at once, she realized that the heart of the evening went beyond sharing meals and laughter. It was an interwoven legacy of divine love, reaching into the lives of those who craved belonging. Her faith surged, but a question remained. What ripple effects would this gathering have on the wider community? She stole a glance at the faces surrounding her, illuminated with hope and watching each shared story like a beacon. If even a single heart could be changed tonight, it would be a miracle. As the final audience story concluded, a stirring silence settled in. Grace stood to speak again, heart pounding. She asked the burning question that danced on her lips. How will our stories continue to transform lives beyond these walls? The moment felt pregnant with possibility, and her spirit soared with wonder. What awaited them now that the seeds had been planted? Would they bear fruit in ways they never imagined? The night settled over Little Haven, draping the village in a blanket of starlight. Inside St. Mary's Church, an electricity buzzed with a beautiful kind of anticipation. Grace stood at the center of the gathered community, her heart pounding yet filled with a warm glow. The stories shared, the hopes ignited, and the love pouring from one heart to another created a divine tapestry of connection. Her voice rose above the murmur. This evening isn't just a moment. It is a movement. Each story shared is a seed planted in our hearts. Eyes sparkled in response, faces shifted as light danced with possibility. Even those initially resistant felt the compelling pull of unity, the warmth of community slowly but surely melting away their walls of doubt. Remember our fears? Grace continued, sensing the shift within the space. Put them aside. Tonight we are more than individual struggles. We are collective testimony. Let healing not just echo here, but ripple through our village and beyond. The congregation swelled with a palpable energy. Each heartbeat resonated with her words. What if, with our stories, we can reach those who feel lost, abandoned, or unseen? What if our shared journeys hold the power to heal the aching hearts that reside beyond these walls? A hush fell over them, wrapping the crowd in silence punctuated only by the flickering candles. In that breathtaking moment, every person felt a stirring and awakening because it's true. Those vulnerable moments hold transformative power. The potential to reach beyond their fears and into the lives of others beckoned to them, pulling at the very core of their beings. Let us use our voices as instruments of healing. Simple honesty can ignite change, Grace urged, eyes scanning the room, catching those who appeared wistful. Let everyone know this place, our families, are truly safe havens for the brokenhearted. We are to love boldly and share freely. Her heart raced. She could sense the divine invitation. As the night unfolded, so did a sacred rhythm. Individuals took turns sharing visions of their hopes for the village. Let us hold meetings outside of St. Mary's, shouted James, excitement building. Let us encourage service in our community. Together we can create light. Yes, echoed Sarah from the crowd, her face glowing with fervor. We can start mentoring youth, organizing prayers in parks, and telling our stories loudly. Questions of doubts faded into whispers as confidence gathered like storm clouds ready to release a magnificent rainfall of blessings. Together, they were ready to share testimonies, the failures, the recoveries, the simple moments of Goddess grace in their day-to-day lives. Grace felt a quiet strength surge through her, and with it, a fierce determination. Suddenly, a familiar old woman, Mrs. Thompson, stood slowly, her frail hands gripping the pew for support. "This is just the beginning," she said softly, her voice steady. "But it will take courage to seek those outside these walls. Everything we do must be laced with love and compassion, like the Savior taught us." With every passing moment, Grace felt the trust and love forging bonds. Tension began to lift. Laughter bubbled forth as they envisioned the outreach they'd pursue together. The church glowed bright with a sacred light, one of belonging, respect, and faith in action. As the night waned, Grace knew it was time to act. "Let us pray together for strength," she declared. Knees bent and hands clasped, they poured their hopes into the air, weighty requests mingling with gratitude. "Lord," they prayed in unison, "may our stories become arrows of hope. May our hearts be open to new journeys. Grant us courage to touch those who are searching, and help us be the light in their darkness." In the incandescent glow of candlelight, the air shifted, a tangible presence enveloping them. Grace's heart overflowed with gratitude. When she felt it, an understanding that these connections were divinely orchestrated with every miracle, a learning, a transformation, a blessing flowing endlessly. As the church began to empty, promises made and plans laid, Grace sighed deeply, her heart full. She turned to her family, seeing their faces bright with newfound hope. They had truly shifted together, breaking through the hesitations that had dulled their light. Trust spun around them, each one tethered to the other. It felt like an entire village was being awakened, a collective response to the divine call to service and love. Grace glanced around. The once passive audience was now active participants in the miracle unfolding before them, a heavenly narrative born of faith and connection. And as they stepped back into the world, Grace felt a holy whisper sweep through each one present. "Go forth, shine brightly. The work begins now." Beyond the horizon lay an entire community, ready to embrace healing, love, and testimony. Grace clutched James' hand, stars shining above them like promises upheld, illuminating the path ahead. The essence of what they had found would not remain confined to that night. It would resonate in every prayer, in every smile, in each story shared. It was, indeed, their divine time to rise and be a light, a chorus of love woven deeply into the life of Little Haven. Now you need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories that will spark your journey. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like now, feeding the algorithm with your powerful connection. Go on, comment your reactions and testimonies about how this story touched your heart. And don't wait even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of divine love. Only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting this channel through your actions.